So we need the legal ad. All right, so here we go, 7:30. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. on the application submitted by Robert Manzilla, trustee Manzilla and DeGrande Trust for a variance pursuant to 415-22 and 415-89.1 to allow for the construction of a single-story duplex, two-family residence at the premises known as and numbered 0 Manzilla Court, Rockland, Mass. The property is located in the R2 zone, R2 Residence Zoning District, subsection 415-9 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lot 254-29 on the Rockland Assessor's map. The owner of the property is Robert Manzilla, trustee Manzilla and DeGrande Trust of 21 Manzilla Court, Rockland, Mass. 02370. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information and remote meeting details. And what we got here? I got a letter from Dorian Taccio and Morgan PC. I'm going to read this. Dear Chair Rosa, this office represents Robert Manzilla, trustee of the Manzilla and DeGrande Trust. In connection with this matter, we write to request this matter presently scheduled to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals on May 4th, 2021. Please be continued to the next scheduled hearing date. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you. Yours truly, Adam Brodsky, CC Robert Manzilla, trustee, via email. Okay, so they're asking for a continuance, and I believe Kim has already talked to these guys. They're looking at June 15th or something. Is that correct?
Correct. June 15th is what they requested.
Is that what they requested? And
Yep.
And our schedule is good with that?
Open. Yep.
Okay. I would, since we got all voting members, all board members here voting, Mr. Tanzi, myself, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Baker Jr., and Mr. Haynes, I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing to June 15th,
What time do we want to do this?
7:30, I guess.
7:30, because Kim, that's completely open, correct?
Completely open.
All right, so 7:30 works. I got a motion by Mr. Hessian. I got a second by Mr. Baker Jr.
Rosa, could I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
One of the things that the applicant is looking for is a variance.
Mhm.
The board has 100 days to act, and I was going to say we grant them the continuance, but also ask for an extension of time.
Okay.
So pressed for time when you open the meeting in June.
Do we need to ask for that now, or can Kim do that via email when she tells them that it's?
I don't know that anybody that's representing them is actually on the meeting, but
They are not.
okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll email Attorney Brodsky and ask him for an extension.
Okay.
And I'll tell him the board approved. Okay.
Okay. If you can do that, that would be phenomenal.
Yep.
All right. So I've got a motion. I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Myself is yes. Mr. Hessian.
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Sorry about that. Yes.
You're a yes, and Mr. Haynes.
Yes.
All right, so right off the bat, we've got the continuance to the 15th of June. Attorney Galvin, you'll be able to take care of the email and just let him know.
As we speak, while we're on the meeting on my other computer.
Perfect. All right, just let them know that way, and let them know we accepted the continuance to 7:30 on June 15th.
7:30, got it.
Rock and roll. All right, we got 5 minutes.
Rob, can I bring up something while we're hanging around?
Yeah, we got 5.
I think we should set a policy that all documents for public hearings for the zoning board should be in the town hall 5 days prior to the meeting. If not, all the documents are there.
Mhm.
The hearing and the requests will be denied for lack of information. And I think it'll send a message to some of these people that kind of laxed on getting the stuff to us.
Mr. Baker,
We've asked them a million times and they keep not getting it to us.
Mr. Baker, I am 100% in agreement with you. Mr. Tanzi and I, once I get through my revisions, I'm going to give my revisions to Mr. Tanzi. Mr. Tanzi is going to look at the revisions that need to be made to the application itself when it comes to requirements and what needs to be done. And then from there, it's going to be made part of the application. So once the application gets submitted, those instructions are also going to go along with the application, so they know, and they're going to have to sign it. Basically, they're going to have to sign it that they know. We're going to say this all in the application, and it's going to change. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if everybody has the. Again, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about it in 5 minutes. So we're going to leave it at that. Mr. Baker, you are not going unheard. I want you to, as usual, I want you.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd just like to thank all my colleagues for moving forward on that. I think it's a great idea.
We're going to have to. We absolutely have to. And the rules and regs were written a while ago, and they've been updated as time goes on. But these things need to. It needs to be an organic change. It just it has to update as the time goes on. So we get that all taken care of. At least it puts it takes the onus off of the zoning board. To make up for lack of information and lack of time. So it has to happen. It absolutely has to happen.
Would that new rule just be for new applicants, and the existing applicants wouldn't really be limited by that rule?
Yeah, at this point, there's nothing we can do about that. They're already in the queue, and I have no problem with that.
Right.
But
I just want to be
anything-
sure we're not going to be going, gee, don't you know the new rule, when people are already not beholden to that rule. So I just want to make sure.
No, you're 100%. You're on point, sir. It's going to come down to once the new rules are put together as a board, we just look at them and just agree. If everybody agrees on the rules and regs, then we just adopt that and make that policy. It has to be. It absolutely has to be.
Rob, I just have to log out. My computer's freezing, so I'm going to log out and log right back in, okay?
Good, sir. Thank you.
Chuck, how's the new guy doing?
Well, I think he was overwhelmed a little bit yesterday, but he'll catch on. He's already starting writing a couple of grants for me, so that's outstanding. But for us,
Take all we can get.
done right. You guys putting a new fence in down on Water Street
Fence? No.
near that brook?
We might be repairing some sections of it.
Oh, okay. No, I thought it might have been you guys with the construction there.
They might have been cleaning it. The edge with the graders.
Yeah. For those of you who care, it's 3-0 Red Sox.
Oh, that's a good start.
Bobby, are you understaffed down there or do you have a full complement of guys?
We're always understaffed. We have 8 guys,
Yeah,
but
I'm not talking about the whining aspect of the job. I'm talking man count, head count.
bodies, there's 8 of us. I'll leave it at that.
And we leave it at that. I get 7:45. Here we go. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 7:45 on the application submitted by Joseph Palucci. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Okay, Joseph Palucci of 10 Patriot Parkway, number 508 Weymouth, Mass. 02190 for a variance and/or special permits pursuant to subsection 415-16A, 415-16C, 415-89, and 415-89.1 to allow an indoor athletic facility specializing in baseball and softball training, but also permitted space to be leased for other sports, and also 7,500 square feet of open space with batting cages at the premises known as and numbered 406 VFW Drive, Rockland, Massachusetts. The property is located in the I-2 Industrial Park zoning district, subsection 415-16 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lot 14-20-001 on the Rockland Assessors Maps. The owner of the property is John Tassinari Sr., 406 VFW Drive, LLC, 415 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. 02370. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information and remote meeting details. Mr. Palucci, are you going to be representing yourself tonight?
I'll be taking the lead on this. This is Darren Grady from Grady Consulting.
Darren, what's going on, sir?
Not too much. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Why'd you get the plans to us so late?
It's not my intention. I would always like to get them to you on time. I did revise the plans from the last hearing for the brewery though, and I think I have them up to date. So I can bring you through those changes tonight. Yeah, being familiar with the site from that last hearing should be helpful for this hearing as well. Absolutely,
sir. I do agree. What I'm going to do is before we continue, we need to say who's going to be voting. That's myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Baker Jr., and Mr. Haynes. Mr. Hessian, do you have a problem with this one?
Not at all.
They're not going to have to come to you for anything sewer, right? I don't think they are.
Superintendent's going to have to see where it's a new bathroom and probably change the use, but shouldn't be a problem.
It shouldn't be a problem. All right, I'm going to lie. I'll have you in on this one. So that's all 5 board members. Mr. Grady, if you want to share your screen, and just walk the board through any and all changes, and then anything that's going to be pertaining to the ball club.
Sure. Am I showing the plan right here? Right, everybody can see
got
that. So at the last hearing, we talked about this site. The site has access from VFW Drive in the front here. It's got parking spaces in the front here and also along the sides here. We're removing 3 parking spaces here to allow better access to the back here. The 7,500 square feet of, let's see if I can zoom up. Hold on. That's better. The 7,500 square feet is actually on this side of the building. The training facility itself is 7,500. The area that I have shown here is actually 10,879 square feet. So some of the changes that we talked about at the last hearing about this site had to do with moving the dumpster area here. We needed to improve upon the fence back here and also extend the fence 32 feet back here. The plan's been updated to include all the comments that we had discussed at the last hearing for the brewery. The distance, the clearance between the building and the parking is 25.6 feet here and 22.3 feet here since we removed these 3 parking spaces.
Very nice.
Fire truck access is the same. So it's vehicles can get in and out of there. What else do we do over here? All the easements is shown, like we had updated the plan last time. The electric service is shown. The lighting, I do not have a lighting plan for this yet, but I have requested it. Also requesting that I do get a photometric plan with it so you can see the foot candles and how they dissipate at the property line. With that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'm going to open this up to the board. Let's see. Mr. Tanzi, talk to me.
So how many batting cages are going to be in there? 6?
That is correct, 6.
And it's just batting cages, nothing else?
There are some other areas in there for like soccer. What was it? There was some training for soccer, lacrosse, and exercise classes. With
Darren, is there a floor plan of some sort that we can get a layout?
let's see. Bear with me one sec.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the 6 batting cages. We have office, manager, vending, the bathrooms. Men's, can you see this okay?
I can see that.
Yeah.
So most of the space is taken up by these 6 batting cages.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like there's a whole athletic field or exercise area in here. Most of this is the batting cages.
Okay.
There are some associated rooms with this, and they're not as significant in size as where the batting cages are.
Okay. All right. Can you bring the plan over so we can see the left side of it?
Sure.
All right. So that's definitely all the brewery. I'm just just kind of getting an idea of how this all goes. More so to see if is there any direct connection between the 2 sides of the building other than outside through the vestibule?
No. There's solid walls right through the middle here.
Okay. Mr. Tanzi, does this help your?
Yeah, I mean, you can get from the athletic part to the brewery without going outside through the vestibules. One vestibule is connected to the other. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, where are the soccer practices and other games going to be held? Are they going to be held in the area of the batting cages as well?
I believe so.
So the batting cages, I would imagine, have to be all caged in when you're batting. I mean, otherwise a foul ball or even a direct hit would. Whether the cages collapse or retract or.
I will have to get you some more information on that. Mr. Palucci, do you have any information on that? Are you muted?
Kim, can you unmute Mr. Palucci?
Thank you. Yep. Sorry about that. I was trying to figure out a way to raise my hand so I could offer some insight. So with the 6 batting cages in the 7,500 square feet, they are retractable. So they come out to, I believe it's the length of that room is 82 feet, and the cages come out 70 feet. And then you can retract them so the whole space is open. So I think that answers your question. So when somebody's asked about soccer, it's not like we're not going to have soccer games or anything like that in there. It's more for younger kids to be able to work on some skills and drills and things like that. But there wouldn't be actual games going on in there.
Okay. And what's the maximum amount of people that would, be here, say for batting? I mean, would groups of 2 typically show up? Would 12 at a max 12 people be occupying the batting cages, or?
Yep. Yeah. So that's a good question. So the way that I have it designed is so that we can have 2 stations per cage. So that would be 12 stations, and then you could probably have up to 3 in a non-COVID environment. You could probably have 3 kids per group. So that would be 36. But until we get to that point, it would probably be 2 per group would be the max for it.
And you're talking, and Mr. Palucci, you're talking again, kids. And are you directing this towards, kids and adolescents and stuff like that? Or is this something that adults are going to be able to participate in, teenagers,
Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't really decided yet on what the absolute youngest age will be, but my guess is it'll be kind of like that T-ball age, which is like around 5 or 6. And then we would go all the way up through, high school and college age kids.
All right. And you're not going to, if a senior wants to come in and bat a few, you're not going to turn him away, right?
Yeah. We're not going to turn anybody away. In fact, one of the things that we have is some technology called hit tracks, and it's actually, it's the best way to describe it is it's kind of like a video game. It has sensors, so a batter can hit a ball and you can kind of see where it would go at Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium or any ballpark in the major leagues, and that's geared towards adults. So we would be kind of marketing, the men's leagues with that.
No, that's understood. One last question to just touch on Mr. Tanzi's. You said there's 6 lanes, divide that up by 2, and then you're looking at 2 per, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So at any real given time at this point, you're looking at 24 people to do, right? Am I doing that right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, 12 times 2 is 24. So 24 people under COVID rules at this point. We'll call it that. So 24 people in the batting cages at just about any given point. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Mr. Tanzi, you got anything else?
And the parking that count has factored in the brewery with the with the food truck and all that stuff.
Yes, so that's all updated. So these are the hours for the brewery that we talked about. It talks about, or it shows that the outdoor beer garden should be closed by 8 p.m. So that wasn't on there before. So all this has been updated, and the batting cage hours have been updated to summer, Monday through Sunday, 9 to 5, and winter, Monday through Sunday, 9 to 9. The parking for those were 70 spaces for the brewery and 15 spaces for the Patriots Athletic Club. The previous plan showed a mezzanine that was supposed to be used for future retail. That has been removed from this plan. So right now we're showing a total of 85 spaces, and we have 91 existing spaces.
All right. So basically, you've got an excess of, what is that, 5, 6 spaces.
That is correct.
I can do math. That's nice. All All right. Mr. Tanzi,
Yeah, I'm good.
good for now?
Yep.
All right, in the order that I got, Mr. Hessian, go for it.
I'm curious if you could elaborate on the lounge area. Is that just
Yeah.
a seating area or is that a?
Yeah, sure. So it's labeled lounge, but it's actually I've been calling it conference room. So there'll be a conference table in there with a TV. Hope to be able to eventually get to the point where we can maybe have host some corporate meetings there. But for the time being, there'll probably be some team meetings there, so coaches can go in there with their teams and go over film or whatever the case may be.
Okay. And the sewer superintendent has seen these plans for the new constructed restrooms?
Chuck, don't talk sewer, please.
Okay.
Skip that, go to your next.
Okay, the other one I was gonna go on, this is a capacity issue, but Greg, get that. And again, the only real concern I still had is the emergency vehicles access in the back. But I don't know if that was worked out prior because I recused myself earlier.
Darren, can you confirm this with me? But I believe that it is a pre-existing condition when it comes to everything out in the back. I don't think there's really much we can do about it because it is a pre-existing condition. The question is this building sprinklered? Is it sprinkled?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Well, that's my questions.
All right, Mr. Hessian, thank you very much. We're going to Mr. Baker Jr. Talk to me, sir.
Yeah, just to follow up a little bit on the occupancy, could you put the interior view back up, please? And my dog has chosen now to start to bark.
Nice.
Okay.
More of a football guy than a baseball guy, apparently.
He's a couch guy, actually, to that time. Anyway, so looking at the 6 batting cages, and you mentioned under COVID standards, at most there'd be 24 people in or around the cages. I'm assuming, well, I shouldn't assume. What happens to the people who are waiting to use the cages? Where do they go? Where do they stay?
So there's an 8. Oh, 1 sec. There's an 8-foot gap from outside the cage to the wall that has like a rubber flooring, and I think we're probably going to be putting benches in there at some point too. But there's plenty of waiting space there. It's not, as I was saying, I think it's 82 feet long and they're 70-foot cages. So there's plenty of outside space. So it's not like people are going to be waiting in the cages, which would be in harm's way. There's plenty of space.
Okay, but as I understand it, the more people waiting, the larger the occupancy, the more parking spaces you need.
Yeah. So I was really just answering that to based on COVID, but like there really wouldn't even be any more than the 24 people that are hitting in the cages. Like there wouldn't be anybody waiting really.
Okay,
it's a private club, so people need memberships to be there. So they book time to hit. So there's not like a big.
So it's not a walk-in situation.
Correct. I mean, if it's not busy and somebody wants to walk in, that's one thing, but that's not typically what happens.
Okay.
Right, so that's something that needed to come out. So it's a reserved time situation.
Okay,
Correct.
that's good to know. When the cages aren't being used, you had mentioned soccer teams, lacrosse teams, exercise classes, and I'm assuming for whatever purpose those groups are using it for, the occupancy limits are going to stay the same as if it were being used for the batting cages.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, good. I have one more question, and I'm actually going to direct this either to the chair or to Mr. Galvin or both. In looking at the application under section 1, and this may be a function of me being the new guy, it says special permit for use permissible by special permit is being sought, but when you look at the second page, under the special permit category, there's nothing there. Number 13, if this is an application for a special permit, describe in detail the permit you are seeking and provide the board with specific information. Not applicable.
I'm going to take that one step further. Because I see on section A, application for a use variance. So I'm trying to figure out where the use variance comes into play on this as well.
Just tell them you never fill one out. Just do the best you could. Tell them no.
Is that directed towards me?
Yeah, you are the applicant, whoever's going to be taking this on. I know Mr. Galvin has something he wants to say about this.
Yeah, I think the applicant needs to answer those questions. I don't think I can speculate as to why they didn't fill something out or explain something.
No, I wasn't clear. I just wanted to make sure it was something that was required based on their request.
Well, I think when you're
Absolutely.
evaluating the totality of what they've presented to you, you need to have those questions answered.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
so,
Palucci, can you enlighten us on the use variance and the special permit end of it?
sure. So I guess my inexperience with filling out these applications is to blame for that. You know, I guess I was under the understanding that it was an athletic facility prior to that, so the special use really would be staying the same. So if I filled out the application incorrectly, I apologize for that. But you know, where it was a racquetball club before, it's now basically a baseball club, so the use is the same.
Okay, so basically the use variance request is
Moot.
it's kind of moot at this point. Mr. Galvin, does that sound right?
Yeah, so this property, I believe, is located in the I-1. Is that correct?
Yep.
We just double check the I-1.
I-
Am I correct? I-1?
I2.
I2.
It's in I1, though the
Oh.
application says I2.
Oh, okay.
It is an I1?
Yes,
Really?
all that VFW is I1.
I-1, yeah. It says that I-1.
Yeah.
In the plan, it's I-1.
Okay.
So, commercial recreational facilities, including sports arenas, are a special permit use under subsection C in the I-1.
Okay.
And I think that's the closest that I can find for this.
On this subject, would you mind just weighing in? I see that this is a use permitted in this zone by special permit,
Right.
but private clubs are not. And while I don't have an issue with this being an athletic facility, when we start to talk about parking, we should be looking at the parking.
That was one of my issues because I agree with you, Tim. I didn't know how they calculated the parking. I think that under uses, this most accurately falls onto the use commercial/recreational facilities such as, and then they list 5 or 6 different types of sports type uses, and then it says, or other similar facilities. I think this is the closest that we're going to find for a permissible use category. So when it comes down to parking, to see, that's subsection 35. Okay, 41535. We have one for business uses. Let me just see here.
Number E in the industrial uses.
Yeah, sports uses or similar established. One space for extra 60 square feet of floor area if no fixed seating, and there doesn't appear to be any fixed seating, or one space for every 4 seats and one space for every employee or administrator. So it's either one or the other. And to me, where there's no fixed seating in this place shown on any plan, I think we're talking about one that requires one space for each 60 square feet of floor area.
Aaron, you got your calculator?
I do actually.
The conference room count per seat count?
Well,
One's conference room?
there's no fixed seating shown on the site plan. That's the problem. You know, and it does say lounge. So it's kind of a bizarre twist when you say it's going to be a conference room that has fixed seating, but I don't think we would base seating in a conference room to determine the parking required for the 95% of the other facilities. So I think the most logical interpretation of the bylaw would be to require one space for each 60 square feet of floor area.
That calculation is 182 spaces using the 10,879. The 7,500 square feet, just the batting cages. I don't think you'll ever see that.
Hold on. If I could just chime in real quick on that, I understand there's a formula and that's important and everything. But just, from a realistic perspective, the majority of the members are going to be dropped off. They're kids that are going to be dropped off by their parents. It's pretty similar to the same way it was with Kathy Corrigan's with gymnastics. So this isn't, again, I understand the formula and all that, but these are kids. There's never going to be a situation where there's 100 people there and they all drive their own cars. It's just not. That's not the nature of the business.
The only other category this could fit into would be a private club, which is one space for every 10 members and one space for every 2 employees. And I mean, I could probably go along with that too, but in where you would actually have to be a member of the club to use this facility. Is that correct, Mr. Pilucci?
That's correct. Yeah. And it's also, there's no spectators either, right? So there's no, I'm sure everybody's gone to their kids' games or their grandkids' games, and there's no spectators there. It's a drop off to train and pick up after. Nobody's there to watch, if that matters.
I have no problem looking at it as a private club and the parking requirements for the private club.
The private club is not a permitted use. We can't even give a special permit for it in this zone.
Right.
No,
I mean,
I can back up his concept of the parents are going to be used to dropping off kids and not sticking around, because I see that at the Kung Fu studio or whatever that's on Union Street. Their parents drop them off. They don't hang out. That's very common these days. I don't know if that's going to be a factor, but it's the way it is now.
So we're looking at a business that's open until 10 o'clock at night. So I doubt we're talking about kids. And the problem is that we're talking about the adults at the same time the brewery is open at those hours.
Yeah.
This doesn't fit neatly into any one little category. I think that's pretty fair to say. And I'm familiar with these facilities. There's one over in the town of Pembroke in the industrial park. It's located in a, what is essentially an industrial building. And I forget the name of the club that's over there. I've seen it. One time my son went over to do that when he was younger and played baseball, but he doesn't play baseball anymore. And I do see that from my limited personal experience, you go in there and there's this giant batting cage, because obviously you have to hit balls being pitched at a distance that kind of approximates the distance that a pitcher throws, and they got to have some room to hit it. So I kind of get it. So it's really kind of a different facility, and I do think it's kind of a combination private club and a recreational facility. So it's like a hybrid of the two. And I don't think you'd be wrong for trying to apply the private club element to it, where it is really it's not open to the public in the sense that you can just go. I mean, probably do have like a fee that you could pay somebody and bring your son there or daughter there to practice something, but it's more private than public because you almost probably have to be a member. So I'd be okay with applying the private club mentality, but we don't know how many members they have or things like that. I don't know how that works.
Attorney Galvin, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
I know you represent the planning board every once in a while, so, and I believe that Mr. Rubel is going to make them go to, or actually I've talked to the planning board and they're on the agenda for I think it's in a couple of weeks, along with the brewery for the site plan review. So we've talked about this before. Planning board can modify the parking requirements that we set forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, they could make more requirement than you do. Sure.
Or they can less, or they can say that it would be less.
I don't think they have the authority to say less. I think they can require more.
All right. Still comes down to whatever we say. They can.
How many spaces were proposed that are for this specific portion of the use? And the only other thing I wanted to ask is, I thought there was a mezzanine here that was associated with this use that isn't associated with the brewery.
He said that got removed. Darren at the beginning said that got removed from the
I'm sorry if I
application.
missed that. So how many spaces are specifically available for this that are not already required for the other facility?
So
21.
Okay, so you use the private club, Darren, you use the private club parking ratios?
yes, that's correct.
So you anticipated 150 members?
That is correct.
How do we know, like, going forward, that it's 150 and it's not 350? Or I hope they're successful, by the way. I'm not suggesting that, but how would we verify that? And what would happen if there wasn't enough parking?
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough hours in the day to be able to service that many members. So the 150 is based on, realistically what we could do there, and that's a high number, to be honest with you.
Mr. Palucci, you have an active business right now doing the same thing. Is that correct?
I'm the high school baseball coach at Weymouth High School, and I'm also the commissioner of a summer collegiate baseball league called the Futures League.
Okay. Just quick question. You've attended these kind of, you've gone to these kind of facilities before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What's the turnover rate? How long do people tend to stay there when let's say the batting cages were full, you got 24 people in there. How long do they actually stay? And like, how long would a normal session last?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like a typical there's two. So there's a 30-minute rental and a 1 hour rental. Not rental, but a time that they would hit.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were hitting like as part of a larger group, like a team or something, they'd probably be in there for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, typically 30 minutes to an hour. And then if we did like a clinic or something like that, in the winter, it would be probably 90 minutes, I would say.
All right. So at any given time, how many people do you think are going to be in the facility?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
At just about any given time, how many people do you think are going to be in the facility?
Are we talking COVID times or?
Let's start with COVID times.
Yeah, so I probably wouldn't feel comfortable with having, any more than that 24 to 30 people in there.
Okay.
And if things change, hopefully, I think they will pretty soon. Maybe 50.
50 tops at any given time. Is that including your employees as well?
Yes.
How
Mr.
many
Chairman?
are working, or how many employees total?
Well, hold on. I had a Mr. Where the hell are you? Mr. Baker Jr. I had you before Mr. Galley.
Yeah, just to follow up on Mr. Haynes' point, and I believe he indicated that a private club can't be located in an I-1. Yet the applicant has said that use is going to be limited to members of a private club. And the engineer has indicated that parking was predicated on occupancy or potential use by members of the club. So how can we consider it anything other than a club?
So can I just jump in, Mr. Rosa, for a minute?
Please, Mr. Attorney Galvin.
I think when this bylaw was written, it was written for clubs, meaning social clubs, like like the Italian American Club or the
Eagles
Kiwanis
Club.
Club, or some type of a fraternal or soror, I forget the clubs like that, social clubs. And I'm pretty sure they weren't thinking about indoor baseball clubs, because these are only concepts that have only kind of really developed within the last 10 years. So this is really a hybrid type facility that they call themselves a private club, but they're really just a gym. Okay. In the true sense, in my view. So that's why I say it's more of a sports use, but it makes no sense to have 180 spaces at all.
As the pot stirrer, could I interject a second?
Please, you started it.
I know it took on a life of its own. So there are two provisions in the industrial parking. One is sort of a one space for each vehicle, generally based on the premises and adequate space for visitors. But going back to the one space for every 4 seats, it seemed like it might make sense in the way that the parking bylaw was written for industrial uses, that we sort of make our own hybrid of that. There aren't seats, but there's only so many people that can go in a batting cage. And the fact, it's like trying to calculate square footage for a bowling alley. You can't occupy most of the space of the bowling alley. You can only put a couple of people on each lane. So when I did the math on the sort of the number of batting cages, the number of people that might be hanging out, and divided it by 4, it seemed to me like we could probably come up with a decent number. And my real concern is still that the mezzanine, we've taken the mezzanine out in order to make this happen. And we keep backing the owner of this property, with less and less parking. And I love these two uses. I love these uses together. I see how this can work. If we add the mezzanine back in, I just don't, we're going to be right back here and we're going to be backed into a corner. But if we're looking even at 50 people, divided by 4, you still have, I think we're still less than the 15 spaces we're talking about, even with the employee numbers in there. So I think if we looked at it from, even if the soccer use was there and there were 50 people running around, doing soccer drills, if we look at it from a seats point of view, we can max out the parking, but there's literally going to be nothing left at that building. And, we've got to.
Yeah, I think you actually almost ought to say these spaces shall be, marked for the use of the baseball club, so that you maintain adequate parking for this use. It's easier to mark their 15 spaces than it is for the other 80 whatever spaces for the brewery. And you probably don't care if they use some of the brewery spaces on those days that the brewery's closed anyways. But I do think if you're inclined to go along with what Mr. Haynes suggests, I think that a condition of approval could be that the 15 spaces that are proposed are acceptable to the board as private club type spaces and shall be marked with signage for the baseball club or the Patriots Sports Club or whatever they're calling it. Patriots Athletic Club.
Attorney Galvin, if we look at it from the perspective that they requested a use variance, wouldn't the use of a private club?
I have to find my agenda to see how they advertise this.
They didn't talk, or is it? They did not talk about a use variance other than on the application itself. Or right there.
Yeah.
We've got the application to do hereby given for a variance pursuant to 415-22.
Okay. 14 dash which one?
415-22.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Just take a second to get back there.
Because if the use variance is in play, we can look at it as a private club and we can vote
Building
on
and lot
the
regulation.
vote on the use. So that's
415.
22, 415, 89.1.
Yeah, that's just the general variance thing.
And oh no, wait a second. Hold on. Wrong one. All right, hold on. 415, 16A, 16C, and then the general variance is for 89.
415 what?
16A,
Yeah, well, that's the wrong section.
16C.
It's in an I1, so that's not even the right section.
Okay.
Look I think they're eligible for a special permit here. I don't think the use variance is required.
I don't think so.
The only question is, are you going to consider this sufficiently enough of a private club because of its nature that you'll allow them? I mean, it has a membership element to it, but it's not the place where you go in and socialize and you sit down and you drink and you have something to eat and you congregate. It's a place where you go in for an hour and you use the batting cages, then you leave. You know, maybe you buy some supplies or something like that. It's not it just doesn't. I think we have to apply some
Purchase of a membership here is like makes it no more a private club than BJ's or.
That's right. I don't consider BJ's private club in the way that they're talking about it here either. So, I mean, how many parking spaces you'd have to have if this was a BJ's? You'd have to have 2,000 parking spaces in a very large garage. I just think that the appropriate thing to do would be to allow them to use the private club parking requirements and have them stripe it. I don't know that there's any other practical solution here that's fair to the board and the town who created these and to the applicant. I try to be reasonable about it. So,
And in the end, it still comes down to there's a total of 21 spaces remaining as opposed to the 15 that the private club says. So even at that, we can. They've got 21. So, saying that tells me that if we do that, it does seem to work. My only issue is the overlapping times that both the brewery and the batting cages are going to be open. Because let's just say myself and Mr. Hessian want to go hit a few balls. We spend an hour over there, and then hey, let's go grab a beer. We just walk right now. We walk right next door.
You got to move your car.
Great. And see, that's the thing. You'd have to move your car
before you have the beer.
Yeah. So that's something that's something to be concerned about, but I don't think it's something to be.
I think we probably have to let the property owners police that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I just get back to my original question?
Mr. Baker Senior, please.
Junior.
Junior, I'm sorry.
If I can direct this to Mr. Galvin. So do I understand that they are seeking a special permit, and as such, there should be some information, not saying what the nature of the information should be, but there should be something filled in paragraph 13.
Yeah, or they have to give it to us as a part of their presentation tonight. I don't think it's fatal. And look, we've taken a very reasonable view of these things. If they could supply us the answer to that question tonight, I think that would suffice.
As long as it turns into a matter of record in the minutes, I'm fine with that.
Yep. So maybe we could have Mr. Palucci just pull that up on his application and maybe explain why that specific question or how that should be answered.
I apologize. I don't have the application in front of me.
Palucci, can I suggest that Mr. Grady field this? Are you prepared to field that, Mr. Grady?
I don't have, if I open the zoning bylaw, I think I might be able to do it. Hold on.
While he's doing that, if I could just say, if you think of what was there previously, I forget the name of it. I think it was the South Shore Racquetball Club. The business model is exactly the same. The difference is we're baseball and that was racquetball. They had 8 racquetball courts. We have 6 batting cages. In those racquetball courts, sometimes there's 3 or 4 players in there. So in terms of the numbers, and it's pretty similar. That was a private club where they had memberships. So it's the business is pretty similar.
Mr. Palucci, the board definitely does understand that. We definitely see that. The only problem is that we have to make this work on paper.
I understand.
Unfortunately, we need to have something from the applicant, which is you, hopefully through Mr. Grady, that can kind of satisfy the requirement for why do you need a special permit? You know, that's really, it has to be, we have to be able to put that in our final decision, just as a matter of record. So that's kind of the issue that we're looking at. While Mr. Grady is looking at this and reviewing this, I've heard from Mr. Haynes. I've heard from Mr. Baker Jr. I've heard from Mr. Hessian. Mr. Tanzi, I heard from. Mr. Baker Sr., you've been rather silent here, so I'm going to go to you now.
That's because I was mute. The only question I have is if we issue a special permit, we should put a stipulation that they cannot rent it out to bachelor parties or bachelorette parties or anything like that, where they could, because there's other sports around now that the axe throwing, it's BYOB. You buy your time, ice time or batting time, throwing time, whatever. We should not allow that to happen on this, with this.
Well, first and foremost, alcohol consumption within the building, I would think that would be prohibited. Mr. Palucci?
I don't have a liquor license. I don't know why. That's not what our business is. So
I dig it. The thing is that with a BYOB, I don't know if you need a liquor license. I don't know how that all works, because I know some of these facilities do allow bring your own.
yeah, I mean, that's not what I'm even considering doing here.
Right. So that's a null point. It probably will be in the conditions, just it would end up as a condition, just so you know, but it's nice to know that you had no intention of doing that. Mr. Baker, renting it out to bachelor parties and stuff like that, while it still may not be in his business model to do that, I don't think we should stop him from doing that. If he's got 24 people that want to rent the place for 3 hours, I think he should be able to do that, regardless of what's going on. I mean, granted, yeah, there's probably going to be a girl running around with a tiara saying that she's getting, going to just get married and stuff like that.
I don't think this is Mr. Palucci's plan at all for this. I think that we ought to allow him to run it with reasonable rules. If this is a place where children congregate or young people congregate, I don't think we have to worry about Mr. Palucci at all.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I mean, bachelor party thing is crazy, but I might do private functions where we have like a banquet or something like that. Mm-hmm. I have thought about doing stuff like that, but that would be where I would go and get maybe get a 1-day beer and wine license if I was going to do something like that. But that's not really a major part of my thinking right now. So
I just don't want to limit you at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Baker Sr., you're all set. Mr. Galley. Mr. Galley, how's your cat?
Oh, good. She's doing great. She just
do you want to speak, or does she want to talk?
No, she her question was already asked already, so I do appreciate her giving the time. No, actually, it's funny. I every question I was going to ask, I think pretty much people asked. I saw my answer on the plan about how many employees there are, so that wasn't a factor.
Okay.
And I don't think I had any other questions because people beat me to the punch.
Attorney Galvin, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I've already said everything I have to say.
Mr. Grady.
Yes, I do. We'd like to request a special permit under section 415-15C2F. This would be a a commercial recreational facility in the I-1 district for other similar facilities, such as like bowling establishments, skating rinks, sports arenas, open air theaters, dance halls. I think the batting cages and the training facility is a similar facility to those listed in this section.
I believe the board will concur with that. Again, the only real issue on paper that we have to deal with is the parking requirement. I don't know if we can just, globally just say, yeah, we're going to change the parking requirement based on how we feel. Attorney Galvin, how do we do this?
On the parking spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I think most everybody's comfortable.
I think what they ought to do is they ought to erect a small sign that this space is for the use of the Patriots, or, whatever the formal name of the club is,
Mhm.
and put it on a post at, whatever the windshield height is.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best way to do it. And I really don't think we care if, when the brewery's closed, someone parks in one of those spaces if it's more convenient. But I think when the brewery is open, we don't want the brewery people parking in these spaces.
Mhm.
And, if we get complaints about a problem, we're going to have Mr. Rubel investigate it, and we'll figure out what's going on down there. And, there could be enforcement action, because what we're being told is that we're going to have enough in both uses. So we'll get to that if we have a problem.
Okay, so what it comes down to is that we can, even though private clubs aren't allowed, we can use the private club model for the parking, and that's fine for this situation.
Right.
Okay, board members, does that sit well with all y'all?
Yeah, because, it's a recreational sporting facility, but it's got an operations platform that behaves like a private club.
Mhm.
So,
Everybody else, we're all comfortable in this, that we're
I
gonna,
am.
that everybody's comfortable?
I'm comfortable with it. I think
Tim, I know you had said it already. Mr. Baker Jr., you're happy?
Yeah.
All right. Darren, can you do me a favor? Can you take the plan off the screen? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
welcome.
All right, I'm going to open this up to the general public. Does anybody want to speak in favor of this? Raise your hand, please. Mr. Mike B. Kim, can you unmute Mike? You're unmuted, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Mike Bromberg, 373 Forest Street. I'm a butter. It all sounds pretty good to me. I have a question or two, minor, I think, but it all looks good to me. The overhead door in the back is pretty big. Will that be opened up during any of these batting cage events? The aluminum bats and balls, they can get pretty loud. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so I've thought of that. It will be open, especially now with COVID. I want it to be as open air as possible. And I do really push wooden bat use there more so than aluminum. But I'll tell you right now, sir, if the noise ever becomes an issue, if you come to me with that, I'll close that door. But I would like to try to keep it open as much as possible.
Do you have central air on that side of the building at all now?
We do, yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty cool in there, so to begin with, so even when it gets hot, it should be fine. And this is not to elaborate too much, but I mean the majority of the kids are outside in the summer. They're not really in there as much, so it's more for more in the winter when they're in there. And in that case, the door would be closed.
That kind of leads to my second question. Is there any activities in the back of the building that?
No.
Nobody playing catch or hitting any balls? Nothing?
Nope, we won't be back there.
So, well, that's it. That's all I have. I think, the fence was an issue that we were gonna deal with, I think with the other. We're still looking for, some privacy fence to, separate, the activities, and that with that associated with that building from our houses. I did notice that, Mr. Grady mentioned a fence, I don't know, 35 feet or something. He mentioned a fence, 32 feet of fence. I didn't see a mention of any fence going across the access road again, just the gate, just the one pipe gate. So,
Sir, it's on the plan.
oh, it is, excellent.
Yeah, everything that you were talking about at the last meeting is on the plan.
Oh, okay, excellent. I haven't seen this plan. I thought I looked today, didn't see it.
No, it's understood. It is on the website, just so you know.
Excellent, thank you. That's all. I have a feeling we're gonna hear a lot of bats and balls with the door open. Maybe we can knock it down halfway down or something like that. We want to work with you as neighbors, but that's all the questions I have on that.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Who's next? Anybody else want to speak in favor? Does anybody want to speak opposed?
George Anderson.
What's
Hey,
your
look, I
address, sir? Name and address, please, for the record.
Yeah, George Anderson, 355 Forest Street. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a question for you. Is there any way you can put that plan back on there? I got a question about it on the east side. I don't know if you can do it.
Darren, that's up to you.
Is that possible?
If you wanted me to put the it back up, I can.
Yeah, the site plan, that's all.
Yep, hold on one sec. Can you see that now?
Yeah, I could see it. Let's see. Can you go?
That was the gate that we were talking about a minute ago.
One way. I'm trying to figure out, I just wanted to see something. That thing that goes along the east side, what is that? Is that an easement? Is it a drainage ditch or what is it?
Oh, this here?
Because, yeah, that right there, what is that?
That's an easement for future water main. So when I believe when VFW Drive was created, it split a parcel. So there was land left over here. And I think it was to provide water access rights for this parcel here.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because I didn't understand what it was when I was looking at the plan. And I'm saying, okay, you already got water from Forest Street anyway, and it goes all the way across VFW Drive. I was not sure what that was for, because I said, I've lived here for 52 years, and I know they put the easement right down the west side of Corrigan's down there when it was Corrigan's. And I said, I wasn't sure what that was. I didn't understand it. And I said, is that line that's the dotted line, the conservation land, the wetlands? Or is that something else?
This dotted line here is the approximate wetlands.
Yeah, that line there. What is that?
It's the wetlands.
I'm just a little curious. Okay, that's the edge of the wetlands. Okay. And that's okay. I was just wondering. Now, there's not supposed to be any outside softball, whatever that, it's all going to be inside, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. I don't want to hear clink, clink, clink.
Okay.
I heard about that and I said, no, I don't want that. That'll drive us nuts. But I said, no. I said, as far as the brewery, if that's what it is and everything seems what it is, it sounds okay. I'm good with it. I think I had something, and I'll talk to that with the building inspector. I said, we had a fencing, that's a minor thing, but I said, whatever. But I said, other than that, if everything's going to be inside, I don't have a problem.
All right, Mr. Anderson, I appreciate it. Who else wants to speak in, I guess, opposed at this point? I see a Peggy Dean. Kim, can you unmute Peggy Dean, please.
Okay,
Ms.
so
Dean, name and address for the record, please.
Peggy Dean,
Yep, I'll get out.
Peggy Dean, 393 Forest Street.
Go for it.
I'm
What
not,
do you need?
Mr. Anderson, we're on to somebody else. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Dean.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm okay with it. My only concern is that big garage door is like right behind my house. I'm concerned that a baseball or whatever these are can come through if they leave that big garage door open. And then, of course, if they leave that door open, then all that noise comes right to me.
Yeah, so with the concern about the baseballs coming through, so the way that it's constructed in there, there's an actual there's a shell net that goes around the batting cages. So like you're looking at the picture here and it shows the lanes.
Yep.
There's a shell net that goes around all of it. So let's just say, for example, somebody hit a ball and it went out and there was a hole in the net and it went through the net, it would get caught in the shell. So nothing would ever get outside, or nothing would even hit a wall or the ceiling. So that's not a concern. And you know, I did mention earlier about the sound. I understand, you know, if I lived there, I wouldn't want that either. So, you know, if it becomes an issue, if you wanted to bring that to my attention, I'd take care of it for you. But especially now with COVID, I do want to try to keep it as open air as possible, so that will be open. And I think someone mentioned earlier about maybe keeping it halfway. Like I would have no problem with that.
Anything else, Ms. Dean?
Nope, that'd be it.
All right, I appreciate that. Darren, can you take down that, take the plan down one more time? Just so I can get a handle on who's at the meeting and who's not. Anybody else want to speak in favor or speak opposed? Raise your hand. I see nothing, hearing none. I'm going back to my board. Does anybody want to say anything in regards to the applicant at this point? All questions answered?
Can I ask one question about, I was looking at that site plan. I just had one question
Mr. Haynes.
about that, the area behind. So I thought when we first saw this plan that there had been a pool back there and that area behind the building was designated future parking. And I've noted that this recent plan we've gotten says existing gravel parking. So I'm just curious about how that area behind the building has been used. And the reason I ask is was that future parking or is that existing parking?
It's really not parking at all. It is where the pool got taken out. They filled that back in. It's really not parking at this point. It's just gravel.
I'm remarking because the plan says existing gravel parking.
Right.
And so I'm making an objection because I don't know where that designation, how it arose, and I just want to clarify it before we close the public.
I feel that it was put on by the engineer in error. It's an existing gravel area. If we look at this and put this together, we're going to say that I think one of the conditions is going to be that there shall be no parking in the existing gravel area behind the building. That way we can just can that right there. But in the end, it was never a parking area to begin with. It was only the pool. They pulled out the pool, they filled in the pool. They just haven't loaned and seeded it yet. If that was the intention at this point, it is just gravel. So I think that if we word it right, there will be no parking allowed on the existing gravel area behind the building. I think that's important. Do you agree with me, Tim?
Well,
Can I say something?
Mr. Anderson, I've closed. Okay. No, thank you. Tim, talk to me.
So I mean, the question really was directed towards our consultant, but but I'm with you, Rob. That we've talked a lot about existing uses and how they can carry on in the future. So we've allowed some parking into the setbacks. And I've said this before in earlier hearings that that area that, what's paved now is parking, what's designated as has been parking, but I don't want to leave that unnoted because it's on the plan. And we've heard testimony that there's not been parking back there, that was a pool. So I don't understand why that's on the plan as existing gravel parking.
It's called a mistake. And it's the only thing that I can really say. Darren, do you want to change what I'm saying here? I see that existing gravel parking area. It should have been just existing gravel, not existing gravel parking area.
Yes, I can change that.
Okay. And again, when it comes down to the use, it was never a parking area to begin with. So, all right. Are we happy, Tim? Yes. Yeah, I'll say that. Okay, thumbs up. Board members, are we good? All right. Mr. Anderson, I know you want to say one more thing. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Kim, can you unmute Mr. Anderson, please?
Okay. Now, the only thing I wanted to say about that pool is it was put in 1973, I believe. I've been here since 1969. But I said, no, it's always been there. They used it for years and years, and then they shut it down. And I said, it's just been there. I said, over the years, it was used by kids to jump the fence, came out. I said it was
Mr.
more of
Anderson, you have
more
to
of
move
a problem than anything.
Mr.
So,
Anderson, what is it? What is your point? I need you to move it on.
no, I'm just saying it was a pool. They took it down. It's been sitting there for probably 20, 30 years without use, actually.
Okay.
I don't think they've used it for 20, 25 years.
All
So
right.
I said, it's just been there. And
Okay,
that's
thank
all
you.
I'm
Thank you,
saying.
sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That'll clarify that, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's see, where are we in, all right, any remaining questions from the board? Anybody at all?
Good.
Do you think does everybody agree we have enough information to be able to make this decision tonight?
I do.
Everybody's good? All right. All right. Remaining questions for the board. Hearing none, close the open. Okay. I would entertain a motion to close the open portion of the public meeting.
I'll make that motion to close the open portion of the public meeting tonight.
I need a second.
I'll second.
I got a second. Roll call vote. Myself, yes. Mr. Hessian.
Yes.
We going. Mr. Haynes.
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries, and excuse me, I'm reading my other screen here. I apologize. All right, Mr. Palucci, the board will deliberate tonight, and you are welcome to stay. You'll receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp on the decision, go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal, and if no one has appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. Do not, okay. All set?
Great. Thank you very much.
Not a problem, sir. What time have you got? I got a little before 9. I'm going to request a 5-minute from everybody. We good with that?
Yep. Yeah, we are.
All right, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right, everybody back? I'm back. Mr. Galley, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Baker, Tim, Greg, Mr. Galvin. All right, we got everybody. How do we feel? How does everybody feel?
I'm good to go.
I'm good.
All right, any issues to really talk about other than deciding conditions?
No, I just agree with both you and Tim on the condition on the rear parking on the unpaved portion.
Yeah, I
Other
mean,
than
it's,
that, I think it's going to be great for the community.
dig it. All right. Well, let's talk conditions. Do we have the conditions from the ballpark? Not the ballpark. Do we have the conditions from the brewery? Not that they're all gonna, pertain, but I think some of them can be a copy and paste situation. Seeing if I can find them here. Right here. All right. Just get to the conditions that we said here. All right. All right. Special, Kim, do you have the special conditions from the brewery? I got them up on mine. I don't know if you have them on yours.
Yep.
All right. First one I see is special permit is granted for. Obviously, this is going to be the name of the facility. Mr. Palucci, can I ask a question? Kim, you may have to unmute him.
Yep, I got it. Sorry about that.
Can we just can we have the official name of the business?
Sure, it's Patriots Athletic Club.
All right, Kim, you got that? I'll assume.
Yep.
All right, so we got that. Next one, brewery. The next one was operations allotted to. So it was basically all the times. Let's look at the plan again. The plan gave hours of operation. Where the heck is it? Not there. Not there. There it is. All right. I've got hours of operation. We got summer hours, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I've got winter hours, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that can stay. That could be condition number 2 for the times. Number 3 was must receive all other local permits and approvals required. I think that should stay in there. Next one was entertainment hours. We're not going to deal with that. Next one after that was no consumption of alcohol and no food consumption outside of the building.
Don't put that in there at all.
Don't put it in?
No, I mean, this is not they're not authorized to sell or serve alcohol here.
They can get, and I'd be okay with, they can get a 1-day license, or they might do a conference and have catering with a caterer's license that has.
Yeah, I don't think we
alcohol. That's okay.
Alcohol thing. It's being permitted as a commercial recreational facility, not as a bar or anything like that.
All right. So in the end, if they want to get a 1-day, it is what it is. Then we don't have to say. So we don't have to say anything about that.
You won't even be involved. It'll be a selectman's 1-day license.
Okay. Skip that one. Skip the next one. No parking on VFW Drive under any circumstances. Everybody happy with that one?
Yeah.
I actually think what you ought to do is, before you put that in there, is just the parking spaces shall be delineated with a post and sign approved by the building commissioner for each of the 15 spaces that are going to be for the Patriots Sports Club.
I'm going to say 21 spaces because that's what they have left.
Up to the board. That's not my call. The bylaw requires at least the 15, I think, for the private club.
True, but the bylaw also says that private clubs aren't allowed in this zone. So we're kind of going. We're playing this by ear at this point. So I think that my gut feeling is that there's 21 spaces left over. Give it to the ball club. That way they have the benefit of.
I know that it says no private club, but this is like a membership club.
I agree.
You know,
that's why I'm saying this is kind of like a hybrid, just like you did. You know,
it is. It's just something that didn't exist when the bylaw was drafted. So I think it fits in between them, you know.
No, I dig it. I think that there's 21 spaces. There's 21 spaces remaining on the site. I think we should give that to I think we should give those to the benefit of the ball club.
I agree with that.
My gut feeling.
Well, just playing devil's advocate, when we're talking with the applicant and he says it's potentially maybe at the most 50 people in there, I'm really, even though we're willing to look at this like it's a private club and apply that same math, for me, if you divide the 50 by the 4 spaces per seat, you know, it's 12 and a half, it's 13, and you add 2 spaces for employees, you're at 15. So for me, the math is the same, whether you're applying the sports club rule or the private club rule, but it's 15 spaces. And I'm happy that there's 6 extra spaces, and whether that goes for extra people for this use or extra people for the brewery, or when they come back with the mezzanine, I'm okay with this being 15 spaces myself and not requiring signs for anything more. My own 2 cents.
Mr. Galley?
I just want to ask, what kind of signage would he have to put up? to
So
mark.
I would assume something that looks like a handicap sign, you know, what I mean, like like a handicap sign, but it says, this space is reserved for the ball
Patriots
club.
Sports Club.
For
Yeah.
all the spaces individually?
For the 15 spaces that are associated with this use.
And more than likely, it's going to be back to front parking. So there's going to be a sign on either side of the post.
Yep.
So if you want to, and again, I say give them all the spaces, 21 spaces. That's what I say.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Who is this?
John Tassinari, it's in regard to the spaces.
Yeah.
If we did go with the model of the 15 spaces that are shown on the plan and didn't earmark the additional spaces just for the Patriot Club, it would give the ability for either side to use the spaces accordingly as needing, instead of just having spaces that go perhaps unused just because they're marked at something else. We really like to maximize the ability to use those additional spaces for either one of the two groups as needed. So if
respectfully, I disagree with you. Respectfully, I disagree with you.
I respect that. I understand.
But in the end, it's not up to me. You know how I feel. The flavor of the board. It is what it is. So talk to me. Let's see, Mr. Hessian, I'm coming to you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I agree with Tim.
Next, we got Mr. Tanzi.
I agree with Tim.
That's fine. And that's the majority right there. Call it the 15. I just need to see them designated on a plan.
Thank you, sir.
So we got 15 spaces. So we're going to say that that's 15 spaces required, and that they shall be marked with signage according to the zoning bylaw to be approved by the building inspector. Designating them for the ball club. And then the next one, no parking on VFW Drive under any circumstances.
Yeah, I think we've called out for signage to be put out there.
Did we say that? Hold on, I just want to see if we said that on this one.
It should be there on the sign.
No, I agree with that. I'm just seeing if we put it on if we did it as a condition on the other one.
I believe it was.
And I'm going to say that it wasn't. It just
All I know is I want a teleprompter like Rob.
No parking on VFW Drive under any circumstances, and give me some language, guys. Signs and next condition, signage shall be required, designating no parking on
VFW.
Does that jive with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Dumpster, we've already taken care of that.
The signs on VFW should be DOT approved.
Kim, you got that language?
I'm having a deja vu.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
All right, so Kim's got that language, so we can put that in there. We're not talking dumpsters. We're not talking dumpsters. We're not talking loading. We're not talking unloading of stuff. The next one was required number of parking spaces, but we already covered that.
But that a condition about no ball playing, et cetera, in the back, outside of the building.
I agree with that. Next one was smoking. Next one is snow storage. Smoking, we're not talking about snow storage and removal as per planning board site plan approval. I think that works.
Rob, are they going to share the dumpster with the brewery, or?
They didn't call out another one, so I'm going to assume that they are. And in the end, it's probably going to be light trash anyway. There's no food that we have to talk about. There's no real drinks that we got to talk about. More than likely, all the drinks are going to be recyclable anyway. So I don't think we're talking really too much dumpster usage. But I would assume they're going to share the same dumpster. Let's see. So we got the snow storage and removable. Prior to occupancy, the applicant must provide the zoning enforcement officer with an as-built plan, which in the end, it sounds like both of these facilities are going to be under construction at the same time. Does that make sense? Mr. Palucci, does that make sense to you? I'm assuming everything's going to be kind of under construction at the relatively the same time.
Yeah, yes, it will be.
Okay, so when it comes down to it, we are going to require an as-built plan, but it's basically going to be the same plan. Both are going to be on the same, on the same thing. So once the last person, whoever goes last, whoever goes for occupancy last, they're going to need to, provide the site, the as-built site plan. Assuming Mr. Rubel will accept a partial site plan, as-built site plan. So I'm going to keep it in there. Actually, I'm going to keep it in there as written. Prior to occupancy, the applicant must provide the zoning enforcement officer, Mr. Thomas Rubel, with an as-built plan. And the last one has to do with the fence. Kim, you got all that kind of put together relatively?
Yeah, you want to keep 16 in there as well, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to keep
And-
16.
And keep 17
17,
or no?
it was a requirement, and it was a conditional requirement for the brewery. I kind of think that the brewery is going to do it, or at least the owner of the property is going to do it, because if he doesn't do it, that the brewery can't be in there. So I don't know if it necessarily has to be on there.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could chime in on that. So
Please.
that is part of the brewery's requirement. So that they're taking care of that. So I don't think it needs to be part of this.
No, I agree with you. Plus, it's on the opposite side of the property that you're on.
Correct.
So 17, I don't think it's necessary in there. Kim, if you have everything kind of roughly, can you just run it over real quick?
Yep. So one, we have special permit is granted for, and then it's going to be Patriots Athletic Club. Then we have the hours of operation. 3 is must receive all other local permits and approvals required. 4, do you want to keep the entertainment, or is that a nix?
No, that's a nix. That was
Okay.
specifically for the other. 4 can go.
Okay, and then for 6, or well, forget the
It'll end up
numbers
being-
because
it'll
they're
end
all
up
out of
being-
order. But the next one, I have parking spaces shall be delineated by post and sign for each of the 15 spaces according to the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
And then signage shall be required, no parking on VFW Drive. And are we keeping, you skipped over the lighting. Are we keeping the lighting or are we not keeping the lighting?
I did skip over that. Site lighting shall follow the Rockland zoning bylaw, and exterior lighting shall be dark sky compliant. I think we should keep that in there. I'm seeing nods, so yeah, keep that in there, Kim, please.
Keep it in? Okay.
Yep.
And then snow storage and removal as per planning board site plan approval. Prior occupancy, the applicant must provide the as-built plan.
Okay. So that's what we got so far. Does anybody want to add anything additional? Mostly specific to the athletic club. I see nothing I see
Well-
nothing. I see something from Mr. Hessian. Talk to me.
No, I said I can't think of anything else.
Tim had mentioned something about having a condition in there about nobody playing ball in the back, in the rear of the building. How do you want to word that?
Yeah, no outside,
Activities?
no outside athletic. It's not games, but
Athletic
Activities.
activities. Thank you. No outside athletic activities
Or loitering.
or loiter. Yeah, or
No
loiter.
unathletic activities either.
And that's in the rear of the building, right?
Yeah, on the to the rear of the building. And then also the gravel parking area as labeled on plan shall not be utilized as a parking area. Does that make sense?
Yep, I like that. I like that.
All right. Kim, you got that?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I just chime in real quick on that?
Sure.
With the loitering part of it, I mean, if we wanted to put a picnic table out there for them to go out there and, you know, have a drink or something like that, like, I mean, I just don't want to, if somebody's out there having a drink, you know, if a kid's out there having a drink and he's talking to another kid, I don't want that to be, you know, a violation. I mean, there's not going to be any baseball activity out there. We're not going to be throwing or hitting or doing anything like that. But, you know, I guess my concern is with that door being open sometimes, if a kid steps outside for whatever reason, I don't want that to be, you know, construed as a violation. So, you know,
True.
Again, we're not looking to be doing activities out there, and loitering is kind of a tricky word.
So I think if the issue we have is that because you're abutting a residential neighborhood, and this special use, we're trying to just accommodate your needs and theirs. So with the brewery, they have a tall fence, they have a private area, there's some landscaping, they've done some things in order to mitigate noise and view and sound, and it's already an issue that the door is going to be open with noise. So I'd say if there's going to be use in the back of the building beyond the building, then we have to start talking about what that use is. It needs to be on the site plan. Then we also need to look at fencing and landscaping and other mitigation. So
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. So that kind of opens up a little can of worms there.
I recommend maybe what we ought to think about is if there's going to be any use back there, let's just put the condition on that they'll come back to the board, you know, for patio or for any outside space, because there's nothing inherently wrong with a sort of mitigated, nice planned use for that outside space, but it needs to be a little more formalized, I think.
I absolutely agree.
As do I.
Kim, do you have any? Did you get all that? I'm assuming you've got like a decent worded something for that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, how do you want to do the wording for if the applicant would like to, in the future, utilize for a picnic area? Like, how do you want to word that?
No
I know that
outside use for the athletic club without prior approval from the zoning board.
That's pretty simple and right to the point. I like that.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay.
All right, nice, simple, and easy. All right, what else we got?
I'm good.
Everybody, Mr. Haynes is good. Mr. Baker Jr., you good?
I am fine with it.
Mr. Tanzi,
Yep.
Mr.
Yep.
Hessian,
Yep.
and my two associates, Mr. Galley.
Good. If I was a voting member, I wouldn't require them to mark every parking space, but I'm not a voting member, so that's the only thing I don't feel is necessary. This is an opinion. I figured fighting over parking spaces could be something between the brewery and the athletic club.
Yeah, we're trying to. The thing is that we're never going to be able to eliminate it. We'll never be able to eliminate it. But it's something that we can lessen. But on the flip side, this is why I wanted to designate 21 spaces, so it would give them a little bit more room to work with. But it is what it is.
Like in that spirit, I could see having a sign saying spots beyond this point are for the athletic club. That's all. I don't know if that's feasible.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you've got two different business entities here, and each business entity is entitled to their share of parking.
Right.
And if there's no claim for parking spaces, one business could encroach and use up spaces on the other business. It's kind of like the China Plaza and the insurance guy, I forget his name, but he's always complaining that his parking spaces are being taken up by the restaurant. And I can understand his issue there. He needs to run a business. He needs to have his spaces to run his business. And, so there shouldn't be any need to share spaces on peak hours and whatnot. Each business should have adequate amount of spacing. So if the spaces are labeled, each business is protected. So I think it's a good condition.
Yeah, I do agree. I hear it, Mr. Galley. I hear what you're saying. I do agree because it's an added expense. It is an added expense to put these signs together. But to echo what Mr. Tanzi is saying, the spaces do need to be designated kind of spot on each one. It really does need to be designated. And again, I mean, if 15 is all you want to do, 15 is all you want to do. Saying I have no problem with that. Let me think. Again, I would suggest that if Mr. Grady is still here, I would suggest that when you do go for the site plan approval, you make sure to designate on the plan whose spaces are what. 15 spaces for them, 70 spaces for the other, and we'll call it the 6 spaces for overflow or something like that. Because quite honestly, and again, I'm not trying to segregate anybody. I tend to doubt there's going to be a lot of handicapped coming into the ball club, but there very well may be. Are we saying that 15 of those spaces are any of them handicapped? We didn't say it. We didn't talk about that. So typically there's handicap spaces required. Of the 6 spaces remaining, maybe an additional 2 you could put towards handicap spaces specifically for the ball club. Board members, how do you like that?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mr. Palucci, do you have any problem with that?
I don't. That's fine.
All right, so we're going to say 15 spaces. We're going to say 15 spaces for the ball club with an additional 2 spaces marked as handicapped. So it's a total of 17 spaces required. Mr. Grady, I'm sure you can take care of that in the drafting phase.
I can. We've shown 3 handicap spaces on the plan right now, and that's all that's required for the site, based upon the ADA regulations and the number of spaces here. So you're going to allocate 2 of those handicap to Patriots Athletic Club. So
no, I'd like to do 2. I'd like to do 2 additional located closer to the Patriots Athletic entrance.
So you're going to require 5.
A total of 5.
So
and again, if you want to, you can argue this point when you go to planning board, because they can change the space requirements if you want. But I think that at this point, again, I can't say whether there's going to be or whether there's not going to be handicapped or special needs, going specifically to the ball club. But in the end, I know that all three spaces are kind of right in front of the vestibule. I know that.
Right. I don't mind moving the spaces around, but when we add another 2 spaces, you're going to lose some of that overflow parking.
Right. I understand that.
Okay.
You still got and you got 6 overflow. So now you got 4, and now you got 4 overflow, and call it 2 overflow for the handicap. I just think that providing that it'll give people a little bit more, just a little bit more flex. And again, I got a nod pretty much from all my board members. If anybody disagrees, and you don't have to go with what I say. I feel that a couple of extra spaces, most specifically handicapped at this point, would work.
Well, Rob, one of those 3, all 3 of them are centered right in front of the vestibules for both facilities. You've got one there for the athletic club, and you've got one definitely for the brewery, and then the middle one could go either way, probably more for the brewery than the athletic club. I think for the total spaces on this parking facility, I think 3 meets code.
It meets code.
And yeah, and that one space right in front of the vestibule to the athletic club, I think that would be adequate.
All right. So adequate and meeting code, that's better than exceeding code?
Well, no, I don't know.
Because right now we don't. Right now, based on the previous approval, those three handicap parking spaces technically were for
Brewery.
the brewery. That's why I'm saying that the golf club needs their own handicap.
Yeah, we would probably need Tom to weigh in on this, because I don't know that just flipping through what our zoning requires, but maybe the condition here simply needs to be, handicap in addition, or, that spaces as required by the code for this use need to be on the plan and designated on the parking. But beyond that, I don't see why we need to make that any more of a condition. And if 3 spaces suffices, I would rather them not lose more spaces. For me, the issue is just bothering neighbors on one end and having to park on VFW Parkway on the other. And any way we pinch this, I don't want to end up creating a problem.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. Again, I feel that an additional 2 handicap parking spaces would be a good thing. If not everybody agrees, then it is what it is. If we don't want to put that in there, we don't have to. I think that because we already said that those three parking spaces we're going to go with the other one.
Let's defer that to Tom, to our building code enforcer, and make sure that there are the proper amount for all the uses in the building.
Mr. Galley.
I just want to say, earlier we already discussed the spirit of protecting parking spaces for the athletic club. So in that spirit, we already have handicap spaces, like you said, pretty much called for the brewery. So don't we want to have almost a protective handicap spot for the athletic club?
That's my point.
Seems consistent with that idea. And we have the spare spots to do it, because we've already got 6 extra spots more than we require. We've got 21 out of 15, so that means we use 2 of them. We still have 4 extra. They're required to have so many parking spots. They have an excess of required parking.
Yep. And in turn, if Mr. Tassinari wants to come and check out his building, he has a designated parking spot for himself.
I agree with both of you, gentlemen.
So I'm looking at it from a perspective of, we already designated them to the other one. And because it's 2 different businesses, I think it is necessary. But again, Mr. Galley, you're not a voting member, so you really can't
cause problems.
But if my voting board members agree with me, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too. I think because we designated 3 for the other, we should designate at least 1 or 2. At least 1 or 2 for the athletic club.
Well, could we hear back from our consultant, because for the owner, because I was under the impression, and he just stated in his hearing, that the 3 were for the building, not for the brewery, and that we required it. So I just don't, my concern is requiring more handicap spaces than required takes away from the number of parking spaces in total, and then creates a potentially unsafe situation. So we should simply, I think, in this case, defer to our building code enforcement and say, just make sure that the building with all of its uses has the proper amount of handicap spaces.
Which presumably would be 3. But that's not the spirit of what Rob's trying to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that original plan that was submitted was shared originally. If you recall, when we submitted with the brewery, the athletic club was also on there, and it was a little bit of confusion, if you remember initially. So those 3 spots were taken into account for both the whole property, the building use. So it wasn't that we're taking one away from the brewery. It was submitted together on the same plan initially, and that's why there were 3, and it accounted for the whole building. That's what that took away from. So that's why that was like.
Well, my recollection respectfully is that when we approved the conditions in the permit for the brewery, we did it to the exclusion of anything else, any other entity that appeared on the plan.
Well, perhaps the wording was that way for the brewery, but in regard to the parking, I don't know if we had spelled out specifically the 3rd spot was there for the other use. I mean, I can understand the way the wording was and how you voted, but that was the true initial purpose of why it was there. So taking that into account, be so that it may, if we need to add one, we have to add one, but I don't think after speaking with Joe, that they have that kind of use for that. And unfortunately, it'll sit as an empty spot and won't be able to be used by anybody if it isn't a handicapped person. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I see everybody's point tonight. Nobody's wrong. I get it.
Yeah, my one comment on that would be, I agree with what the chairman said about exceeding code is always a good thing. However, I think in this case here, just having 1 parking spot, I think would be more than enough for what our general purpose is. So, that's just I know I said originally I agree, but that's just my 2 cents. I don't think that we need the 2 additional or whatever it was, 3 additional.
All right. I had said 2 additional.
Yeah.
So there is nothing on the plan that shows what the math is, and I don't recall offhand myself what the ADA requirements are and where the number of spaces come from. It's not, there are some parking requirements specified in the zoning code, but in this particular case, it's not designated. So again, my suggestion is that we make the condition simply that Tom, our building code enforcement officer, confirm that there are enough, that they're the proper number of designated handicap spaces for the uses that we have.
Yeah, no, I think that I can see that. I can see that.
Let's confirm it, let's get it, and let's make that the condition.
Put the onus on somebody else.
Yeah, and then let the planning board decide.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'm worried that they're going to require, more parking than we're even giving at this point, so.
Kim, you got that? You kind of got that down?
Yeah, do you want me to put that separately though, or do you want me to piggyback that in with the parking spaces shall be delineated?
Piggyback that, but make it like the condition right after that.
Okay.
All right. Anything else we want to add in there? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Kim one more time to go over the conditions just real quick.
One sec, I'm just piggybacking something in.
Yep. Take your time. It's not like I can go out and have a beer and go hit a baseball right now. So.
Bad.
Maybe someday I will be able to.
I'll join you.
Well, there's plenty of handicap parking over there if you need it.
What a putt. Good one.
It's good to smell.
Oh, wow. And I drive a 12-passenger handy dandy van. So I'll fit in that parking space, no problem.
All you have to do is wear a hat though.
Right there, baby.
They won't hit you.
Okay, so if special permit is granted for, and it's Patriots Athletic Club, we have the hours of operation, we have no parking on VFW Drive under any circumstances. We have the site lighting shall follow by the Rockland zoning bylaw. We have snow storage and removal as per planning board. We have the prior to occupancy as-built plan be submitted to Tom. We have the parking spaces shall be delineated by post and sign for each of the 15 parking spaces. Then after that, I have Thomas Rubel shall have final approval that appropriate parking spaces have been met. Is that how you want it worded?
That's number one, but appropriate number of handicap parking spaces.
Handicap parking spaces. Okay.
So that, and that can kind of be two.
All right. So I'll put that right underneath it.
Yep.
Then I have signage shall be required. No parking on VFW Drive. No outside athletic activities in the rear of building, going along with no outside use for athletic club without prior approval from zoning board.
Okay.
Gravel parking area as labeled on plan shall not be utilized as parking.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Is that everything?
2, 3, 4. How many do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
16.
$14.
14, yep. I had 15, but I doubled one.
Okay. I would entertain a motion. I would entertain a motion at this point. Motion to approve. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
I will
As
second
listed.
that motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Tanzi. I got a second from Mr. Hessian. We've gone over the conditions. Everybody's happy with the conditions as read.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume that. All right, good. We're gonna obviously we're gonna formalize it and put it into better language, but it's not changing. So roll call vote. Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Hessian.
Yes.
Mr. Haynes.
Yes.
And Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Welcome to Rockland.
Yeah, good luck, guys.
You got 21 days. You got 21 days on the appeal period, and I know you guys are on together with the brewery. I don't know what the date is, but I know it's coming up within the next couple of weeks. And back to Mr. Grady, just do me a favor and make sure that all of that is taken care of on the plan. All the updates need to be done. Make sure you designate on the plan whose spaces are what. They don't have to be painted on the ground or anything like that, but just as long as we know that these spaces are for the brewery, these spaces are for the athletic club, these are the overflow spaces. And again, if you can provide a calc on the plan, just so everybody can see it as to how many spaces for handicap are technically required on there. If the three work, the three work. I'm not saying that it's not enough. I don't know that it's not enough. I just think, adding a couple more in there, exceeding the bylaw, exceeding state standards, hey, I think that's pretty good. But if 3 is enough for both facilities, then we're good, just as long as all of that's on the plan and the planning board sees it, and we're good.
I can do that.
All right. All right, is anybody, Attorney Galvin, do we have anything else that we need to talk about tonight?
No, not to my knowledge.
All right, and we have no minutes to approve for the night?
Kim, do we have any meeting minutes?
Yes, you do. You have 3 minutes.
All right, I've read them all and I'm okay with them.
List off the dates.
Yeah. Kim, do you have them in front of you?
No, I have to grab them. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. You got them in front of you?
I do not. I have my other file.
This may take a few minutes. Anybody, Mr. Tassinari, Mr. Palucci, if you guys want to take off, you can take off. This is just house cleaning stuff for us.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just take a moment to thank you and your board very much for helping us get through this. I know it's been a lot between the two occupancy uses there, and
Yeah.
we know you've been understanding, and we really thank you very much for all your help and what you've done.
No, it's
Thank you.
good. It's good. Thank you, and thank you for doing everything that you could do on this. I have a feeling this is going to work.
I think it's a great thing for the town, and I think these guys are going to do a great job and make the town proud. So thank you. We'll look forward to doing some more.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank you all.
Good night.
All right.
I have the minute dates.
All
Do you
right.
want them?
Yeah, dates and who they were.
All right, so January 5th for 48 Pine Haven.
Yep.
February 23rd for 48 Pine Haven.
I wasn't really a part of that, so if anybody that was a part of
I
that,
wasn't either.
huh? Oh,
I
yeah,
wasn't either.
yeah. So Mr. Baker Senior and myself really weren't a part of the Pine Haven, so I'm assuming that I read them over and it all looks good. But again, it's all you guys that.
Pine Haven looks good to me.
I have to say, I don't know that I have the meeting minutes.
They were in the last packet.
And Kim, I know I got a
The last
copy.
packet. I got them.
The one, I looked through 4 meeting minutes and I didn't have any. So I either filed them already or misplaced them. Were these in the packet that we got this weekend?
No,
Oh, these are from the,
the previous. I think these are them here.
oh, my apologies, I have not seen the minutes.
Kim, do you have them in digital format that you
I
can
don't have
link
mine
to Tim real
color
quick?
Yeah, I can email them if you want.
I believe they were in the last packet.
I printed mine out and brought them home and then deleted the email, I think. Trying to remember who sent them to me. Yeah, I got them right. I got them right here.
I don't have them. I'm sorry. I thought I did.
Did that Deborah Shuttlesworth who sent it to you?
Who didn't get them?
I've got them somewhere, but I do not have them present.
I've got my email here. Who did it? Who didn't get them? Tim, I got you in here.
Mhm.
Did
I don't
everybody?
need 'em.
You don't need them. You're good, Mr. Galley. Do you need them? Or are you good?
I've got them.
All right, Tim. I'm sending them to you right now.
All right,
It's
standing
3
by.
Word documents. One is the brewery, and then the last 2 are 48 Pine
Pine
Haven.
Haven.
What's the date on the brewery one?
The
Brewery-
23rd.
Yep.
23rd of
April.
April.
All right. I
No,
got-
23rd of February.
Oh,
And again, this is not all the minutes for the brewery. This is just for that first session.
Yep.
Sorry, I recused.
Oh,
And Tim, if you're looking for what I think you're looking for, it's on the next one.
oh, no, I'm just reading them real fast so I can say
Oh.
that I've read them, because I have not seen these. So it does say voting members, Mr. Hessian.
Was at first. It was the second meeting with that we kind of pushed it and had him recuse.
Mhm. Okay. Well. Okay. So there's two. We're reviewing both of these Pine Havens.
Yeah, because that's everything on Pine Haven.
I object that it doesn't say anything in this about what a great job I did covering for you. So far, I'm looking. I don't see it.
I knew he was looking.
I knew you knew I was looking. All right. So we're going to make a motion to accept draft minutes or accept the minutes for 15 Brewery, February 23rd, 2021, 48 Pine Haven Circle from January 5th, 2021, and minutes from 48 Pine Haven, February 23rd, 2021.
I got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Hessian,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
Self is a yes. Minutes are approved. Anything else?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
I got motion to adjourn. Do I got a second?
Second.
I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
myself, yes. Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Hessian.
Yes.
Out of here, gentlemen.
Good night,
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Attorney Galvin, thank you for showing up tonight. Kim, thank you very much. Board members, thank you very much. Enjoy the evening.
Thanks and good night.